Hey guys, we are back again with Kickin Cancer Cares on KSLM Radio, 104.3 FM and 1220 AM. Our sponsor for the second half is Venti's Cafe. They are absolutely amazing. And I'm a potato girl. I love fries and tots. And I know that I eat really well most of the time, but that is my weakness. But they have these sweet potato fries.
I was going to say, you discovered some different kind of potatoes to use there.
They have sweet potato fries, and they're so good. So really quick, they are drizzled with raw honey.
And they taste like it too.
And toasted coconut on the top of them.
They're really good. They're really good.
Are to die for.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. And so that's my item I'm picking up on my way home. They're so good.
That's your new one, huh?
Yes. They've got amazing food. I'm not going to try to pronounce that one. I'm just not. But they've got spicy black bean dip, pita and hummus, mezza plate of some sort. I'm not sure what that is. They've got Thai peanut, the Mediterranean bowl, the Korean barbecue bowl, the Hawaiian bowl, the Cajun bowl.
My last lunch was the Mediterranean bowl.
Was it?
Oh, yeah. Super good.
Okay. They've just got so much good options, and they've got healthy, really good options, vegan, vegetarian, or just if you want wholesome food, they've got that as well.
Well, and the other thing I love is that, Dino's vegan, so Dino Venti owns the place. His chef is not, but his chef makes some great vegan food.
Oh, the best.
But he also realizes that not everybody's vegan. So they do have some protein options.
Yes.
But like we always say, if you choose to eat meat that eats plants.
And that's his meat.
Yeah. So he actually has, I jokingly say he has vegetarian meat options.
Yeah. Yes, his meat.
Because the meat eats plants.
Yes.
It has vegetarian meat options for you.
Yes, it does.
Really good food.
Yes.
Really good
so
food.
Go check out Venti's if you have not yet.
Well, we kind of touched on it briefly. We're out of time in the first half, but I grew up in Hermiston, Oregon, and Dr.Sherrie grew up in Pendleton. We actually was funny when we first met. We realized how close we were. She has a cousin who's I knew in high school, but we won't go down that road.
No.
But her family is, she's from the Indigenous peoples. Numerous tribes. We were talking off air, numerous tribes that her family heritage is, including, even though there's this border between U.S. and Mexico, the Mexicans are Indigenous peoples too, right? Mm-hmm. And so she has multiple races of Indigenous peoples. And I ask you the question, with so many of your family that's been affected and passed away, is it hereditary? Is it environmental? I'm going to give you, we're going to talk about some things on both ends.
Okay.
And I'll just let you make that decision. Is it hereditary?
Right.
Is it environmental? Because we're going to present some evidence that you're not going to be sure which it is.
Okay. Okay, now I'm intrigued. Let's go.
Yeah.
So the first one I'm going to give you is some statistics.
Okay.
Because, I like to bring you some numbers, right? So this is from a website here in Oregon. Anyone can find this website. And then you can actually drill down inside of this website. So what I decided to do was ask it specifically for the Native Americans in Oregon.
Okay.
For the whole United States, there are 408 cases of cancer per 100,000 people among natives.
Okay.
For the whole United States, okay? 408 cases per 100,000. That's our benchmark.
Okay.
In Oregon, though, it's 466 cases per 100,000.
Okay, so slightly higher.
So we're a little higher than the national average as a state. But then I thought, well, where are the problem areas at?
Right.
Do you know where Crook County is?
Prineville.
Okay. Yeah. So if you go to Central Oregon, Bend, there's a town called Prineville. More importantly, there's a town called Madras. And the Warm Springs Reservation.
Yeah, I've been there.
Is in Crook County.
Yeah, I've been at the Madras.
So you're familiar with that?
Yeah.
Warm Springs.
I've gone kayaking and the Indian Reserve and everything.
Crook County is the highest county in our state. 776 cases per 100,000. That's almost
double.
Almost double the national average.
Okay.
Okay. Yamhill County, which is just west of us, and the Grand Ronde Casino, and the Grand Ronde Tribe, that's in Yamhill County. They're the number 3 county in our state with 675 cases per 100,000.
Okay.
Marion County, which is us.
Yeah.
Number 5 in the state. And the best I can figure, we only have one indigenous tribe here, and it's the Chihuahua tribe. Because we have the school just out of town.
Yeah.
We have 585 cases per 100,000.
Okay.
So Crook County's number 1, 776. Yamhill's number 3 at 675. Marion's number 5 at 585.
Why?
We're going to dive into that in a minute. One of the objectives that I have right now with Kickin Cancer is we want to identify communities like Mickey, who they want to be a guide. They want to start a community in their area.
Yeah.
Cindy over in Bend. But there are some underserved areas in our state that probably will not reach out to us, the community. We are going to go to them. We're going to go say, we would like to help you start a community specific to your region.
Yeah.
And I'm in communications with the Grand Ronde tribe.
Okay.
And we want to start a community within the tribe, within their education system. They are probably one of the most organized tribes of this state. I mean, Grand Ronde Casino makes a ton of money. It's a really well-run business.
Right.
With people who need some help.
Right.
Stephanie Bobb, who's been a guest.
Yeah.
Her husband is a tribal elder.
Okay.
We're going to find a way to get within their council and look like, I'm not here. I won't turn your money away. I'm not here for your money.
I just want to help.
I just want to help.
I want you to healthy.
And I want to talk specifically to your people. Okay. We're also in conversation with someone in Cornelius, which is the west side of Hillsboro.
Yeah.
Now, if you know Hillsboro as a city, the east side is Intel, it's Nike, it's very white collar, it's very educated engineers, and there's literally a street in Hillsboro that as soon as you cross that street, you can just watch the economics drop.
Yeah.
And they jokingly call that side Hills Burrito because that side is predominantly Latino.
Okay, yeah.
And I am teaching myself Spanish because we are going to create a community over there that is Spanish speaking.
Yeah. It's
There's
if we're
connections there to connect you with.
Good. Because
And on the reservation.
we need to get into these communities. I want to.
Yeah.
We've got one in Bend, but I'd like to have one specifically in Grand Ronde and in Crook County.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because these tribal areas, many of them are going to be a little leery of the white man for justifiable reasons, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't been nice to them for the last several hundred years. So, but we need to get in there and go, look, we're just here to help you specifically for your group. Because if the national average is 408 per 100,000 and Crook County is at 776 per 100,000,
We've got a problem to address.
That's a big issue.
Yeah.
it's a big issue.
Yeah. And if you care about your people, let us help and educate.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you asked the question, why?
Yeah. Why? It's frustrating.
So there's two things that Dr. Sherrie brought to reference. You mentioned Cadillac Hospital. For
Right.
those that don't know, there's
Down in Tri-City
yeah, so-
area of Washington.
where Hermiston is across the river. There's 3 towns: Kennewick, Pasco, and Richland. They call it the Tri-Cities, and it's the big hospital in the Tri-Cities. That's where Cadillac is. But right outside of Richland, there's a little town that's called Hanford. And for a number of years, they had a nuclear facility there that was creating energy. Well, actually, they were used it potentially to create weapons, but it got shut down.
Chemical depot. The doctor I was seeing was actually suing them. And when the doctor's clinic got closed down and all of us patients who were part of the study were getting death threats from Hanford
Oh, wow.
attorneys.
Yeah. So the first one I want to touch on, because there's 2 I want to touch on, but the first one is Kennewick
Yeah.
and the exposure to radiation.
It's really high there.
And you've got some interesting thoughts here.
Yeah, so when I was seeing that Dr. Weber, he was doing a lot of blood work and testing on me, and the uranium was so high, not only in my blood system, but other patients who are a part of the study. And he was getting ready to sue Hanford for all the pollution that was happening in our water system there in the Columbia. And just the, dumping of those chemicals in the area. I mean, it travels, so.
Absolutely.
But anyway, what was happening was this doctor was trying to shut that down. They were trying to get them to clean up everything that they had poisoned with the uranium and other toxic chemicals that they, created out there.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first moved to Vancouver in 2000, I was getting death threats. I would get calls from the Hanford attorneys. And I would take down the person's name and their phone number and where they're located, pretend like, I'm some innocent whatever, like I didn't know anything. And so I would call the doctor back and his wife, and they had a small little clinic out in the Tri-Cities right outside of Pasco area, and give them the names and all the information, what was happening, because we were all getting ready to go to court to really back up this doctor and his findings, because, like I was thinking, well, shoot, if I'm going to die of cancer, I'm going to take you with me.
Yeah. You caused this, you're coming with
me. You caused it. My grandmother's died of cancer, my dad. I mean, the whole family was affected by it. So, yeah, is it hereditary? Of course it is, because there's a mutation that happens when, say, your parent or grandparent gets exposed to these deadly toxins. It mutates the cell, and then that passes down to their children. Now, it's just a matter of time when it becomes active. Mm-hmm. We all have cancer cells, but when is it going to become active, right? Mm-hmm. Something's got to react and have that reaction to it. But your biggest thing is if you were exposed to uranium to the level that I was living out in the Tri-Cities, and the only reason why I lived was because I was doing chelation and ozone therapies, and we'll talk a little bit more about those things, and vitamin C IVs and things that really help to detox my body from heavy metals and chemicals. But I was also doing things to help build my antibodies and immune system so that I could fight that cancer. Right, without that, and then really cleaning up the diet even more than I already was, because even then I was vegetarian. Mm-hmm. But again, okay, think about the vegetables. What are they being sprayed with? You can be vegetarian, you can be healthy as all you want. And I sent you something a while back about sludging, right? Yep. And that area is farm city. So, and the sludging chemical is a really toxic chemical that gets sprayed on the crops in the farms. And even the farmers will get sick. I had patients that were farmers that ended up with the same exact cancer, and they were using the same sludging chemical on their crops. Wow. 2 different farmers.
Wow.
And different areas.
Yeah.
One was Gresham, one was in Goldendale.
Okay.
So, and Tri-City area, all the way from like Yakima to, Pendleton to Walla Walla, and then a little bit down through this way, they're starting to find uranium in the water. And so your biggest thing is really making sure and testing that water and making sure that the soil is not toxic. Because then again, we lived between 2 toxic areas, from the chemical depot, the Army depot burning nerve gases, and then the alarms and sirens going off every time they had a leak.
So just to clarify for you,
go ahead.
Well, so there's a second thing that where we grew up, and she just alluded to it.
Yeah.
After World War II, there's all of these chemical weapons that we used during World War II. Well, where do you put them when the war's done?
Yeah.
Yes.
So just west of Hermiston is an Army depot. And they're massive igloos. I've been out there and seen them. They're massive igloos, concrete igloos that are theoretically supposed to contain all these chemical weapons. Mm-hmm. There was 100 of those igloos. Mm-hmm. There are now 99 of those igloos because one of them blew up. Mm-hmm. About the time that I was in grade school, it blew up, and they found the engine of the Jeep that was outside the igloo 20 miles away. That's how much explosion. Except you have this igloo that is clear full of chemical weapons that blew up. So where did all the stuff that was in the go? Up into the atmosphere.
Absolutely.
Yes,
right?
Yes,
if a motor landed 20 miles away, imagine what all the chemicals in the air and how far those floated.
How they land.
Yeah.
How far they go.
My neighbor growing up, her dad worked out there at that. And of course, after that happened, well, then they became really diligent about monitoring those so it didn't happen again.
Oh, I bet.
Except one of them did blow up, and which is part of why when I started the organization, this book actually has 6 things. So Dr. Cohen talks about 6 things. I took 5 of them.
Yeah.
The 5 that I thought we could control. Mm-hmm. The 6th one is your environment.
Yeah.
And this is really kind of more of an awareness, because we can't control the fact that this igloo blew up. Mm-hmm. We can't control the fact that hand put that stuff. But it brings awareness to the fact that Mickey's water machine has more power than you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
So this is the one I just think is so interesting. The other one that you brought up is of the different indigenous peoples within your family, one of them is a Navajo tribe.
Right, my dad. So my dad was mixed race of Apache, Navajo, Saskatchewan, and Shawnee. And so, but I'm not affiliated with any of those tribes, just to be clear. And then my mom's family is Brazilian, Amazonian, and Colombian Algonquin tribes, and then also Mexican and Cherokee.
So a lot of stuff.
And so a lot of
south
different
the
things
border.
for both their parents and then both my dad's parents.
Yeah.
But, if you think about the environments that they live in within smaller communities, back in the day, like your grandparents, your great-grandparents or ancestors that live in these communities that have a lot of very rural areas, but very toxic areas in some way, too.
So-
Yeah.
Inside the United States, where exactly is the Navajo Nation? Is that in
New Mexico.
New Mexico.
Yeah, and part of Arizona.
Okay. So she sent me an article, and I'm just going to kind of reference this and then get your thoughts here. That the Navajo Nation, New Mexico, Arizona, that region, there is a very toxic mercury contamination from historic uranium mining. And then these mines become abandoned, and all of the waste then works its way into the water and the soil. Even closer to home, and this, unfortunately, this has happened throughout the entire United States. It's not a part of the history of the United States that I'm proud of, but it is our history, okay? Here in Oregon, more specifically, if you go down to like the Medford area, just west, there's a little town area called Jackson, Oregon. And anyone who is outside of Toledo in that Siletz, city of Siletz, that tribe of Siletz, what happened was in Medford, we take the natives and we say, we're going to give you this piece of crap land over here. It's called Jackson, and it's hot. I've been there. It's hot. It's not a really wonderful little city, but that's where we're going to let you live. We've done that numerous times in numerous places.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, guess what they found outside of Jackson? Gold.
Okay.
We want that land back because that land has gold in it. And when I lived on the coast, there is a commemorative march that they do every year, because once they found the gold, they took the natives from Jackson and they tied their hands together and they marched them up the coastline and planted them in the town of Siletz. That's what we did to the natives here in Oregon, because there was gold in Jackson. Now, in this Navajo region, they probably did the exact same thing. Oh my gosh, this is crap land. Oh no, wait, there's uranium in this crap land. We want the uranium.
Right,
So we begin mining the uranium. Once we've mined it all, you can have the land back, but we leave these abandoned mines,
There's
Yeah.
a lot.
and it gets in the
There is
soil.
an Apache Junction, too, where, when I visited there and was kind of searching out some of my ancestors from the Apache territory, and it's interesting because there's a lot of old abandoned mines out there because there was a lot of gold in that area of Arizona, and but there was also left behind a lot of toxic heavy chemicals and toxins that are on the land that they never properly buried or dealt with, and so a lot of people got sick.
Yeah.
So to your question earlier,
Why?
is it genetic?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Or is it environmental? Or is it both? Or do you have an answer?
I think it's a combination.
I feel like
really
it's a
do.
combination, but I feel like that the environment almost mutated genes and genetics to keep passing it down. So I think at the end of the day, to me, it sounds like it started with environment
Yeah.
and then spiraled and became a genetic because of the mutating genes and whatnot and how they copied. So it's both.
I would agree.
Yeah, very much so.
But started from my understanding with all of the environmental factors that I feel like it was
Well, plus
environment.
if your
within,
families are living in the same territory for years and years and years and continuing to get those toxic exposures, even the young children.
Yeah.
And having those constant illnesses starting to pop up, whether it's autoimmune disease or if it's a mutation in a cancer cell that, tends to happen a lot, in those environments.
Yeah. Jeez.
So I think
Jeez.
other than painting huge doom and gloom,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I mean, I think the key, what I'm trying to get through here is because you said it very well, we have cancer in our bodies.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing we're going to dive into even more heavily in this book is, David said, we have cancer in our bodies. The key is, what are you doing to create an environment so the cancer can't grow?
Yes.
Yes.
And your body can actually kick the cancerous cells out on its own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you have these cancerous cells already in your body, and then you're in an environment that you don't have any control over what's going on. Your family had zero control over what Hanford was doing.
Right.
The people down in New Mexico had zero control over what the mines were doing, and that actually allows those cells to begin reproducing faster than they should. So I just wanted this half of the show to bring some awareness, like be aware of what's going on around you.
Yeah.
And I really want to bring awareness to a one group of people specifically that seem to be getting the brunt of it. The last number I could find was, if you take all of the United States, all the different tribal regions, and mesh the data together, 30% higher cancer rates among Indigenous people.
Wow.
There is, yeah.
30% higher.
Whoa.
Yeah, and look at the environments that
crazy.
they live
Yeah.
in. Like Umatilla Confederated Tribes, outside of Pendleton.
Yep.
And so, a high amount of cancer rates there. But again, they're not really that far from where Hanford and the Army Depot was burning the gases. Of course, now it's the National Training Center.
Yeah.
National Guard Training Center, no longer the Army Depot. But the chemicals are still out there. The soil is still polluted.
Yeah.
It's whether, and there's really not a way to really clean that up. How are you going to clean, those types of, uranium out of the soil and the water?
Right. How do you? Yeah.
Especially when it's that high a toxic, deadly poisoning.
Which is why I think it's so important that you understand what you're putting back into your body can counteract it.
Yeah, you bet.
You got to get the good phytonutrients. You got to get the good food. You got to get the alkaline water.
Yes.
We have to become CEOs of our own body,
Right.
because there's stuff that we have no control over.
You bet.
I mean, again, if you think about Oregon as a state, that Army Depot we keep talking about is actually west of where she and I grew up. Except when that igloo blew up, our wind typically goes west to east. It would have pushed it closer to where her family was at.
Yeah.
Even though the Army Depot is west of it, the wind would have pushed it the other direction.
Yeah, you bet.
And same thing with Hanford. Hanford is west of where we grew up, except the winds would have pushed everything that direction.
Taking it.
Jeez.
So,
You bet.
bringing some awareness here for
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
environmental
over
toxins.
30% higher.
you. 30% higher.
And when I've driven, like when we went to Madras to go to the warm springs, it was kind of sad driving through there on the way to see the living conditions that they were living in. It almost didn't even look like half of them had, it looked like deserted areas with a few trailers that were, borderline. Are those even livable? Do they even have power?
Well, there for a while, they didn't even have running water coming to their homes. My cousin,
believe it.
I have a cousin who lives on the Warm Springs Reservation, and I remember when they had cut off their water source. Now, how are they supposed to, bathe, wash their clothes, do their daily things without water, So they had to go outsource that.
Yeah.
But again, like my cousin, she has thyroid cancer. Her mom died of cancer. She's lived on the Warm Springs Reservation for years.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're all so far away from each other, too. I noticed that, where they're very far away, where it's almost like, where's the community in that? You almost seem really isolated.
Which is really
those
unfortunate,
trailers.
because any movies I've ever watched that are trying to be historically accurate, all of those groups of people, they were a tribe. They stuck together.
Yeah.
They could tear down their teepees and move on a moment's notice if they had to. They were a community, and we forced that community apart.
Yeah.
So
Sad.
Well, I loved having you as a guest.
Yes,
Tell your
thank
story
you so
again and
much.
add some
Yeah.
insights to an unfortunate situation. But I can tell you that with our launch of Kickin Cancer Central Oregon, Prineville will be a focus area at some point in the near future.
That's exciting.
We need to find a way to help
Yep.
over there.
See, we learn more, and so we do more.
Yep, we learn more, we do
Yeah.
I
more,
love it.
and we help more.
Yes.
Well, in my last little bit here, we've been doing a little timeline, and I wanted to find one group that would really work alongside me, and Breast Friends has been that group.
Oh, yeah.
Marianne's was a blessing all the time she was here. Allison's a huge blessing with us. Well, it would have been July the 18th of 2022 that they had their charity golf tournament.
Okay.
And we did a trade. They had a hole at ours, and I had a hole at their golf tournament. And it was just a lot of fun. I have never seen more men in pink in my life than at that golf tournament. Because they all proudly wore pink. But that was the Breast Friends Charity Golf Tournament. And on June the 2nd is our 5th annual Kickin Cancer Classic Golf Tournament here in town. So just around the corner.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you again so much for joining us, you guys. And Venti's is our sponsor for the second half, so make sure you guys go check them out. They've got amazing healthy options, more than I can list. So just go peep their menu. It's phenomenal. And we will be back next week
as the movement continues.